The Nomad Capitalist team recently saved a family almost $250,000 on Second Citizenship. I'm going to tell you how they did it. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson. This is Nomad Capitalist, where we help 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs and investors legally go where you're treated best. You can learn more at nomadcapitalist.com. And I'm going to tell you a story about a couple that came to us recently, and they had their hearts set on getting a certain Caribbean citizenship by investment. The price tag for the two of them was $175,000, and by the time you added on a whole bunch of legal and due diligence fees and documents that you have to collect and everything else, the total was going to come to a little bit less than $250,000, $235,000, $240,000, something like that. They had talked to several folks who are in the business of selling passports, and they had determined, hey, this one is the best one for us. This is going to solve our problems. But they had come to Nomad Capitalist Live and they said, listen, let's call Andrew and the Nomad team. Maybe let's get a second opinion. Now, certainly this story has a little bit of salesmanship to it, but I'm going to tell you how you can apply this whether you want my help or not, because I do believe in the old adage, if you're not the customer, you're the product. So here's what happened when they came in. They were about ready to spend this money, almost $250,000. And I said, well, what is this trying to solve? And they said, well, we've made a bunch of money in cryptocurrency, and we're Americans. We want to fly the coop. We want to cut our ties. We're getting out of Dodge and expatriating so that we can enjoy the upcoming fruits of our labor. Now, whether you're in crypto, whether you're a business owner, whether you're a day trader, whether you're whatever, right? Having second residence, having second citizenship, having a more favorable tax jurisdiction to live in can help you keep more of your own money. That's exactly what they wanted to do. And yet, I didn't quite understand the situation. So we did some digging, we dug some more, and we dug some more still, and we figured out, well, wait a second. Number one, both of you don't need to get this second passport to renounce, because they didn't want the second passport as a plan B. They just wanted it as a tool to say, now I'm a US citizen, tomorrow I'll be this country's citizen. And so it was merely to help them facilitate expatriation, because they didn't already have dual citizenship. They weren't entitled to citizenship by descent, so they thought they just didn't have any other way to get citizenship in their mind. And so, okay, let's both get this citizenship, and then we can both give up our US citizenship. But after the digging, we determined, well, why are both of you going to give it up? There's really no reason for both of you to give it up. And there's certainly different scenarios that may apply to you. This is not legal advice. This is not tax advice. I'm not doing that. But in their particular case, one person needed to give up citizenship. And in their particular case, they happened to qualify through their source of funds for the most affordable citizenship by investment in the Caribbean, which is $100,000. Only one person needs it. The other one doesn't really want it unless it's to expatriate. So now we can go from $175,000 plus all the fees to $100,000 plus lesser fees, because we're only doing everything for one person rather than two. And so already we saved some money. But then we did the next round of digging. Now, they didn't want to wait around for years for the passport from a golden visa. They didn't want to wait around for a paper residence. They didn't have time to wait for, in their mind, citizenship by any other means except for by investment. Probably because, again, if you're not the customer, you're the product. And they've seen lots of shiny advertisements for how they can get citizenship in any number of Caribbean countries, 5 actually in total, in a matter of months. And so, okay, we already kept them in that Caribbean citizenship ecosystem. We saved them $100,000, let's call it, okay? And then I said, okay, well, let's talk about your family tree. I said, oh, yeah, I don't know about that. We found out that one of them actually had a family member from a CARICOM country, one of the Caribbean community countries. Not one of the ones that offers citizenship, but one of the ones that doesn't offer citizenship. And by being able to claim this citizenship through their family member, it turned out the process was going to take probably about 9 to 12 months. And that was kind of the running timeline in this other Caribbean community country. They would be able to get a pretty similar passport to what they would get in the Caribbean. The one person, not both of them, because only one of them had ancestry from this other Caribbean country. But the passport would be similar. It would actually in some ways be a little bit better. It would give them the ability to live in other CARICOM countries, the Caribbean community countries, but they didn't want to live there. They wanted to expatriate, and then they were going to go and live anywhere they wanted. Their particular idea was Dubai, but you could replace Dubai with anything else. And so we looked at the timeline of collecting all the documents, putting together all the due diligence, waiting for their citizenship program of choice. That would have probably taken about 6 months. Forget anyone who tells you it takes 2 months. I mean, this is like the most optimistic for half of the portion. Okay, there's two different portions of citizenship. No one ever tells you the whole timeline or the whole fees. But it was going to probably take 6 months for, an efficient, process of getting citizenship by investment, versus we thought we could get it done in 9 months if we really got on the ball. So you've got a 3-month delta. We looked at their net worth and figured, hey, probably it's not going to make a substantial difference if they're out in 6 months versus 9 months. And so getting this Caribbean passport, not by investment but by descent, was going to save them an additional, $100 and some thousand. And so we went from, again, $225 to $250 when we're talking about the total cost, which very few people talk about that. We went from that number down to some processing fees. Now, in doing that, we obviously are making a lot less money, which goes to show, as I say, when you're not the customer, you're the product. When you're my customer and you're paying for advice, it's my job to give you the best advice. And if that means that I'm missing out on the higher fees by telling you, why don't you just get this passport here, and then working with you to figure out, is it such an emergency that 3 months extra is going to kill you? No, it's not going to kill you. You'd be better off on an ROI basis saving the $150,000 that we got you down to from the original $250,000, right? Just get rid of the whole investment angle entirely. You will not pay that much more in all likelihood by simply taking the extra 3 months. Then that's what we need to do. And they were able to basically have a pretty nominal cost on the citizenship front. Now, obviously, we were able to help them with our attorneys in terms of renunciation and a whole plan for how to exit the U.S. I've been through that myself. So there were other things we needed to set up. Okay, now we're going to go to Dubai. Now we're going to do this. Now we're going to do that. So there's a whole holistic suite of services that we were able to offer them. So the point I want to offer to you is you always want to check to see what are all your citizenship options, and you want to evaluate the timeline for getting those citizenships, the value of each of those citizenships, and you want to evaluate the fact that a lot of people in this industry are going to tell you to just get one of the 5 Caribbean passports. When people first discover what we're talking about, right? We recently had some things go viral on social media, and they come and they say, oh yes, St. Kitts, $150,000. Well, St. Kitts has been the citizenship by investment program that's been along for the longest time. But there are options that are as much as $50,000 less than St. Kitts and Nevis, and those may or may not be good enough for you. Depends on your source of wealth, it depends on where you want to travel, it depends on many different factors, right? But St. Kitts and the idea of Caribbean citizenship in general, you're at least overpaying by $50,000 in some cases. I'm not saying no one should do St. Kitts, but I'm saying for some people, and in particular this guy, it was not necessary. The more expensive options weren't necessary. You may not even need citizenship by investment at all. If you're running a business, if you have money to invest in real estate, if you have a family connection, if you have any number of different things, you may already be entitled to citizenship, or you can begin the process to be entitled to citizenship. Sometimes it'll take 6 to 12 months. Other times it might take 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years. And what you want to figure out is not just which one of the 5 beaches that the purveyors of citizenship by investment are going to sell you, because look at what they did to this guy. They understood perhaps that this guy might have had ancestral ties that entitled him to citizenship, or they were just so ignorant that they didn't understand that. But either way, they wanted to push him to spend a whole bunch of money, because that's their business, is pushing one of 5 countries or one of 7 countries around the world that offer citizenship by investment. But that's just one of the many ways to get citizenship. And so my lesson here is check your family tree, and then depending on, understand why you're getting citizenship. I certainly recommend these days having multiple second citizenships. And so listen, for someone who already has a Caribbean community passport, to go out and get citizenship by investment in the Caribbean is going to be rather duplicative, okay? For this person, if I were to advise them, there may be other citizenship options that I would tell them to look at, okay? They're living in Dubai, that's not going to work out in the UAE. But what are the other ways that they can get citizenship going forward? But we're at least solving the immediate problem of now he's able to change his citizenship status in the US once he gets this new citizenship. It makes more sense because he's legitimately entitled to it. No one can say, hey, you just went and bought that. They can say, hey, this is in your blood. And so it makes sense. But you want to look for all these different connections, and you want to try and tie together what is my ROI. There are plenty of situations where, hey, an extra 3 months, you might as well do the citizenship by investment and then claim the other one later. And there's your two passports, even though they may be relatively similar. For some people, I mean, if hey, I have $100 million in cryptocurrency and it's going up by $1 million a month, yeah, you may be better off to take the absolute fastest route. But I think that these are all the factors that have to be considered. I get so tired of watching people who go to these companies where all they sell is investment. And then they convince people who see us for the first time on social media that's the only way to get citizenship. There are so many different ways to get citizenship. Not everyone needs it in 6 months. Many people do. Many 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs, it's easier, it's more efficient, it's better financially for them to get it in 6 months or 12 months than it is 5 years from now. But those are all things that need to be worked out. Those are all things many people are not talking about. And in this particular case, it saved this family almost $250,000 to have that proper analysis. These are the questions you should be asking about citizenship and how they fit into your greater holistic picture of what you're trying to achieve by going offshore. Don't stop now. We've got well over 1,000 more videos here on YouTube for you to watch and learn how to go where you're treated best. And if you want to work with Nomad Capitalist personally, go to nomadcapitalist.com/apply, learn about our unique, tried and true process, garnered over years of experience, and learn how you can become our client.